Okay, this is Algebra 2, Module 2, Lesson 10, Basic Trigonometric Identities from Graphs. I want to show you the simple ways to do these. Okay, hopefully you're getting a little bit of a grasp on the radians though. And let's look at number 1. Demonstrate how to evaluate cosine of 8 pi over 3 or 8 rads over 3 by using a trigonometric identity. Okay, so what you're going to do is, first thing I would do is I would say 8 divided by 3. Okay, when you do that, you get, it will go 2 times with 2 left over, which means it's going to make 2 full rotations, right? So let's rewrite it now. We would have the cosine of, and let's just move this to the top, 2 pi, because that's what was left over, plus 2 pi. That's our 2 pi's, or which is at 1 full rotation, right? 2 pi is one rotation. 1 pi is 180 degrees. Okay, so that is your equivalent cosine. Okay, the cosine for 8 pi over 3 is the exact same thing as the cosine of 2 pi over 3, okay, because we're just rotating it 360 degrees. This 2 pi equals 360 degrees, so we're right back where we started. So what is cosine of 2 pi over, that's a horrible pi there, let me redo that, 2 pi over 3. Well, if you know your, or if you're looking at your unit circle, that's going to equal a cosine in the second quadrant, which means it's going to be negative. And what is the value? Well, that's going to be 1/2. Okay. You should be able to look at your unit circle and tell that. Now, if we look at the number 2, actually, let me go ahead and show you something on number 1 first before we get on to number 2. If it's divided by 3, that is going to be equal to a 60-degree angle. If it's divided by 6, that is equal to the 30-degree reference angle. If it's divided by 2, that's going to be equal to a 45-degree angle. Okay? That's how you're going to figure that out. Or, I'm sorry. Well, technically it's the same thing as a 45-degree, but this is going to be divided to the 4th, and let's make it simpler and say if it's divided by 2, that's going to be a 90-degree angle. And we know that because a pi divided by 2 is going to give us 90 degrees. 1 pi is equal to 180 degrees. Okay, so that's your reference angles when you're looking at what your pi is divided by. And then whether it's 2 pi, like here, we had 2 pi. Well, that means your second pi over 3, which means your second reference angle of 60 degrees. And that second reference angle is going to be in this second quadrant. Okay, maybe that makes some sense. But that's a little cheat for you. Now, number 2 says, determine if the following statement is true without using a calculator. Is the sine of 8 pi over 7 equal to the sine of pi over 7? Well, like I said earlier, we're going to divide. How many times will 7 go into 8? 1 time with 1 left over. Okay, so that set sine is going to be pi over 7, because that's 1 pi over 7, plus pi, right? Well, this pi tells you that we're going to go 180 degrees. Well, if you go 180 degrees, that's going to mean it's going to change the sign to a negative. Okay, so this would actually equal a negative sine of pi over 7. And that is not equal to the sine of pi over 7, because it's the opposite. So whenever you see a pi, that means it's going to rotate at 180 degrees, which would change the sign. Same thing if it was cosine. If it swapped at 180 degrees, it's going to be a negative. Okay, it's going to change that sign. All right, let's look at 3 here. This says if the graph of the cosine function is translated to the right, pi over 2. So that's when we're talking about this graph here. Okay. Cosine normally starts at the top, right? And looks something like this. But if we translate it 90 degrees, well, this is 90 degrees, right? That's when cosine is 0. So instead of it being 1, now we've translated it to where it is 0. And this is the same thing as pi over 2. 90 degrees is the same thing as pi over 2. The resulting graph of that sine function, which leaves the identity sine of x is equal to the cosine of x minus pi over 2. Write another identity, okay, for sine of x. So what is another way to say the cosine of x minus pi over 2? Which means a negative rotation of 90 degrees, right? That would be a negative rotation of 90 degrees. Well, that would be the same thing of saying the cosine of x plus 3 pi over 2. Okay? This right here is going to get us, if we went a negative 90 degrees, that would actually take us to, let's look at our circle here, negative pi over 2. If this is pi over 2, a negative pi over 2 would be down here, negative pi over 2. But what is that if we were going clockwise or counterclockwise like we normally do? Well, normally that would be 3 pi over 2. So that would be the same thing of saying plus 3 pi over 2. It would be the same thing as saying x minus pi over 2. Those are the exact same thing. Those are on the same place on the unit circle. So that's the reason why they are the exact same.